Great. Well, welcome everybody. I believe this is my third Product Hunt Live. Super excited to be here. I think we've got a great conversation today. We are here to, well, actually, let me first introduce myself. I forget. My name is Chris Messina. I am a product designer, a technologist. I happen to be the #1 product hunter, which largely just means that I have an OCD compulsion to just kind of like find cool things and share it out to the world. And today I'm happy to share actually one of the products. I've actually been working with the team for a little bit to bring their product to launch. It's called Commit. And we're going to go pretty deep into not only the product, but the broader context in which Commit exists, and also some of the news that they've shared today. So I'm going to share my screen for a second here. Oh, and by the way, let me do a couple things here. Over, I guess in the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little chat bubble. That chat bubble will open up the chat where you can see folks, you can ask questions, you can see who else is here. If you do have questions or comments, feel free to post them in there. I may or may not be able to get to them immediately, but hopefully towards the end, we'll be able to revisit them. We've also got a bunch of folks from the Commit team here specifically to answer your questions, talk about what their process is like, and so on. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share a link to the Product Hunt launch. If you guys are interested in this, I invite you to go check it out, offer some support, ask questions. There's a lot of conversation going on there. I'm actually going to go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. Let's pull this up here. I believe it's here. Okay. So this is, let me see. Is this being shared? Yes, this window is being shared. Amazing. Okay, great. So this is the hunt, pretty straightforward. A lot of good information in here, including some previews of what the UI looks like. I'm not going to dwell on this too much. Hopefully, if you guys already follow me on Product Hunt, you know what this is, you know what to do. There's a great comment here from Greg. Who is Greg on the chat? I don't see him, but that's fine. He kind of lays it out for you. The other thing that I wanted to, and I don't want to, maybe I'll be stealing Bear's thunder a little bit, is that Commit is also announcing that they've just pulled in a $6 million angel raise to help build out their platform. So this is also very exciting. And Bear can talk a little bit more about what their plans are for that, but wanted to share that news. What we were talking about is Commit.dev. You can go check out the website here. Oh, and one thing that's really important about people who are on the live stream today, and also people who are coming to the Product Hunt launch, is that if you register and sign up, you'll get priority access to get onto the platform before everyone else. So that is one of the benefits of coming here and doing this live. And the last thing that I want to, I guess, invite you guys to check out is this values quiz. This is really great. Oh, do I need to share my screen again? Abdullah, if you're seeing an issue, just let me know. Oh, and I'll share the link to the TechCrunch article as well. But this values quiz is super cool. I took it, although I'm not a startup engineer. If you are a startup engineer or are interested in startup engineering, it'll help you to actually decide and define the things that are most important to you in your career and the kind of development and growth you're interested in, because that's what the Commit platform is all about. Anyways, we're going to get into that more now, but I wanted to give you that background. Bear is going to come up. Let's see, you are here, and I believe you just start talking, it'll work. But before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of background. Bear spent 9 years at Hootsuite, and I believe you guys are based in Vancouver. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, cool. But it's not the main. Paul, maybe if you click on my screen on the side, it'll pop open. That might be how that works. I don't know why I don't know that, but anyways. In any case, so Bear was at Hootsuite before. Then he started a company called First Coin Capital. So you've also got some background in the crypto space. Is that right?
Yeah, and then, that's right. Yeah.
And that company was then sold to Galaxy Digital. Now, I don't know a whole bunch about those guys. You can talk about them if you want, but it sounds big given the whole Galaxy thing. But anyway, so that's kind of where you're coming from. You've also served as director of engineering, so you've been in the software game for a long time. One of the important things to understand about the Commit platform is that it was built by and for engineers like Bear. And so with that, Bear, I'll let you take it away. I'm going to stop my screen share, and we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Chris, for hosting us, and thanks everyone who's here joining us to hear what we have for for everyone about Commit. So I just personally, like a bit of my background. I work in the tech space for about 15 years now, and most of my time actually was spent in the startup space. So I really enjoy working in a fast-paced environment. I love having autonomy and just love learning new things, quickly. Sometimes things that has nothing to do with engineers, I still would love to learn them. And actually talking about my last startup, Galaxy acquisition. So while I was running the last startup, one of the things I had to do was to take a exempt market dealer license to be because we were working in the investment banking broker dealer space. So I have to be a licensed broker. So I'm probably one of the best broker dealer, who is a software engineer, So anyways, long story short. So I mean, throughout my career, I worked with, many organizations, people, projects, technology stacks. But one thing that I found always consistent, throughout my career is doing something that, to, essentially help my peers, like the engineers I work with. So, like in the early days, I loved building, like libraries and tools for other team members to make their life easier, right? And when I transitioned to a management role, I also particularly enjoy just helping engineers to grow their career. And sometimes I get into trouble with HR team, because I believe some engineers, they can outgrow the company. And it's better for them to find some growth opportunity outside of Hootsuite, right? So I got into trouble with HR a few times before. Yeah, and then outside of work, I run a few local technology communities. I've hosted dozens of events throughout the years, and then just informally, mentor technical founders and other engineers, just help them out. So I think, I mean, those are the things I'm really passionate about. But honestly speaking, I've never thought about turning that passion into a business until about 2 years ago. After I exited my last company, I was looking for new problems to solve, and I kind of sort of stumbled upon this after talking to over 100 engineers. Just really because I realized, a lot of really great engineers, they're either struggling working in the startup, or they just give up and then join the big corporation, right? So I essentially conducted a bunch of problem interviews, talked to over 100 of them, just trying to figure out, why, what's stopping you, what are the problems? And essentially it came down to obviously financial stability, either it's a paycheck, losing a paycheck or a pay cut, right? That's pretty common. And also for a lot of engineers, the network is not big. It's just really hard to have access to early stage startups, right? Like the early stage startups usually is very relationship based, especially, companies outside of your region, right? For example, engineers in Vancouver, it's not easy to access opportunities in the Valley until they became so big and well known, right? Yeah, and then another problem is just it's just like so many endless and stressful technical interviews people have to go through. This is pretty well known. I don't need to elaborate on that. Yeah, and then working in the small startups, it's very hard to get help, especially in a small team. You don't have the expertise, when you need help, right? So I think when you put all these together, that's the reason why it's just really hard to build a successful career in the startup ecosystem. And that's why, I and my partner and we decided to launch Commit, just to really solve these problems for these engineers.
Can you speak a little bit more to why it's hard for startup engineers to get support? I think that's really important. And I guess maybe there's two ways to sort of also think about this. Like one, what is the experience of being a startup engineer, right? Like what are the expectations of you? And, like you said, at the top, you like to learn new things. And so for you, like getting that education is important. But I got to imagine if you're a startup engineer and there's scarce resources and maybe you're the only engineer, finding the time to learn and to grow on your own is like super challenging. And then, given that you did have, some experience at Hootsuite, how would you contrast the level of support or time or, I guess like HR cover that maybe you would have received to go and learn those new things?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say you went through all the trouble and finally landed in a small startup, right? Maybe you're the only person, maybe you're in a team of 5 or 10 engineers, right? So I think, where the challenges come from is in a small team, there's not a lot of domain expertise, right? Let's say a common problem is infrastructure DevOps challenge, where the team usually is not at a stage to hire DevOps engineers, but then you will have infrastructure or DevOps issues, and you need help, right? So where do you get the help? Sometimes you can solve the problem by doing a quick Stack Overflow question, right? But then most of the time, honestly, the problem is so intrinsic and domain specific. You just really need someone to help you, right? And getting that help is really challenging. It's not easy. So you have to figure out on your own. That can take hours or even days. Sometimes, if there is an expert who can help you, maybe you can solve the problem within minutes, right? So I think that makes a huge difference. That's just one example. Another example is leadership. Let's say you join the startup as a technical leader. You're managing a team of small engineers, and you're facing some challenges managing someone, right? Where do you get help, right? So you can read the blogs all you want, but at the end of the day, those blogs give you some high-level guidance, but really someone who can hand-holding you, help you throughout this, problem solving is really important as well, right? So I think that's kind of the support that I'm mentioning, that, what at Commit, organically, we've built up this professional network, this community where people help out each other, real time, on demand, and also hands-on a lot of times. So I think that's some value we really want to continue to build out and amplify.
Yeah. So, okay, you started to mention it and describe it, but I think we need to go a little bit clearer and more basic in terms of what Commit actually is. Like, what is this platform that you've launched? I'd love for you to show it, soon, but let's start before you get into it, just to like level set, right? Because you said a couple things there, and when I first heard about this and you guys first described it to me, I was like, oh my God, this is kind of amazing. This is like, sort of a startup engineering career on autopilot, and your model is like really different. So unpack that a little bit for me in terms of what is the relationship that Commit has to startup engineers? What are they, you mentioned one of the challenges is around, I guess like the financial risk, of going down that path versus like joining one of the big tech companies. Talk about that just before we get into seeing what the project actually looks like.
Absolutely, yeah. I think from a high level, the way we solve all these challenges that I mentioned early on is, first of all, instead of engineers going out to search their own startup opportunities, we have a very personalized startup matches based on, engineers' passion, interest, and preference. And we were able to source many high quality startups through our VC network, right? So that's kind of, one thing I do, that one thing that we provide. And I can show a quick, like a product demo later on. And another thing is what I mentioned early on is the most collaborative peer-to-peer support community where people, help each other, support each other. And we have different programs to really, example like mentorship, coaching, to really help people to develop professionally, to learn and grow. But the most important program we have is what we call the EP program, essentially engineering partner program. So this is where we solve the financial stability problem by hiring those engineers into Commit directly. So we provide them the stable paycheck, and we pair them up with the right startup opportunity we want to work on. And once they join the startup as a, let's say a full-time employee, and the startup doesn't work out, then they can come back to Commit the next morning, continue to enjoy our financial stability, and we provide them the match, right away, right? So that's, there's a lot more than that, but essentially that's what the EP program that we've been working on for the past 2 years and really solidifying over time.
So I want to reiterate this because this is the part that blew my mind, right? Like typically when you think about going and joining a startup, you're getting hired by the startup. They're giving you the offer, you're signing all the things, everything that you do, of course, becomes their property. And then it does or doesn't work out. There's some amount of runway and hopefully you're getting a salary and then that's it. And what you're saying, what Commit does is that Commit is not actually building products or building startups. You're kind of like a set of designated hitters that work for Commit, get a paycheck from Commit, but are loaned out to startups or essentially like help me unpack that, because like even that is like mind blowing, right? And then let me clear, like let me finish. Like what I heard you say is that if things don't work out with that startup for whatever reason, product market fit, or there was an acquisition or something else, some other common thing that most startups fail, then they just come back to kind of like the mothership, and they look for other opportunities with other people that they want to work with. I mean, this sounds a little too good to be true. So, okay, so help me again understand this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think ultimately it just came down to, we want to solve the financial stability problem for the engineers, right? And there could be many different solutions. What we settled on, not necessarily, the best, but we will continue to build and to iterate and improve. But what we settled on is this, essentially, like two level of, call it security, right? The first level is, once we match an engineer with a startup opportunity they really like, then we provide a 3-month pilot project. So essentially the engineer joined the startup on a 3-month pilot with no long-term commitment. And vice versa, right? And
so they're sort of like consultants during that period? Or
no, I mean, like, technically it is like they are still employed by Commit, but realistically, but real world, they are part of the core team building the core product on their Slack channel. Like they are treated as if they were the full-time employee there already, right?
Got it.
And that's usually what happens. And once they work with the team, the founder, for 3 months, and they both see like mutually a long-term fit, then we facilitate a full-time transition where the engineer gets to join the startup. But if they don't see a long-term fit, the engineer will finish the pilot and come back to the mothership, like you said, right away, and without losing out anything, right? So so some engineers, they try out startups 3-4 times, throughout the year, and to find the right fit. Some engineer on the first one, they were like, oh my God, I love this company, I want to join them, right? So on average, so far, it's 1.6. Every time engineer tries, on average, about 1.6 startups before they find the right long-term fit. So that's the first level of security. And the second level is essentially, you join the startup full-time, you work with them, a year later, the startup didn't work out, or for whatever reason, maybe you don't like the founder or you don't believe in their vision anymore, then then they can come back to Commit right away. Like I said, pick up the paycheck, and then we'll match them with the next opportunity.
Okay, so it's so interesting to me, because I don't want to say it's fraught, but it's such a different set of expectations, right? Like, and I think, again, the more that I talk to you guys about this, the more I kind of understood a number of benefits to this model, but it's really unusual. So for example, one of the questions that I would have as a startup founder is like, well, why would I do this? Like, doesn't this introduce a kind of, like, I don't know, it's not that I want to like, trap an engineer, but they're hard to find. And so unless I'm providing a really great experience or there's a really good calibration, then I would not want to be one of those startups where those engineers leave. So how do you pitch this to startups, and how do you find startups that would actually benefit or prefer this model? Yeah,
honestly, it's really simple. It's extremely hard to hire engineers these days, right? Yeah. So that's for one. And for two, engineers, either way, they can leave, whenever they want, right? It's not like they can lock people in, right? Yeah. So I think the key challenge for us is really, to have a high bar of quality on both sides. High quality startups and high quality engineers, and we provide the training and the mentorship necessary to improve the quality on both sides, right? So I think
actually, this was something else that I heard you guys say that was really interesting, which is, again, if you're imagining a world where you have startup founders and then startup engineers, and both of them are sort of like floating around in orbit, and then they kind of come into contact with each other, and then they have to evaluate each other and figure out what to do. And meanwhile, if the startup is using some new technology or something else, but the founder and engineer like each other, where and how does that startup engineer get the support, get the training, get the background, and how do they evaluate what's out there in terms of those resources? And this starts to give me a little more sense for why a startup would be interested in this, right? Like, essentially you're saying we can help out these engineers get the skills and training that they need to be sort of perfectly suited for the roles that the startup is searching for. So it's a little bit more of a matchmaking process that removes actually some of the risk that comes from the previous process that I was describing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned a couple early on, but there are other really important reasons as well. Like startup founder, like why would they spend time hiring people when they should focus on customer problems and building product and raising money, right? And
Right.
and as we know, like the recruiting industry isn't the most ideal way of recruiting early stage startups, right?
Right.
And then, but that's if you're a founder and you run out of your personal network of engineers, then your choice is essentially work with recruiters, right? Which is,
Yep.
as I said, not necessarily ideal. And then you have a small team and they need help. And where do they get help? This is where the community, the peer-to-peer network, really plays a role. Because I'll give an example. One of our startup partner, they got into a really tricky database situation on production. And we have people, even outside of the company, jumping in right away to help them resolve those, right? So this is one example why, the community as a whole is really providing value to the engineers, but also the startups, indirectly.
Got it. Well, okay. So, we're celebrating Product Hunt's launch, so it'd be great to actually see the product. So are you able to just share your screen and bring us into this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we so far many of our systems, a lot of the value were delivered through the systems and programs that we set up to help the engineers. So we are still very early in the product development stage, but I'd love to show you where we are so far.
Great.
Let me share my screen here.
And again, if anybody has questions, who's watching, feel free to chime in on the chat or using the questions. There's a little chat bubble down in the bottom of your screen. You can let us know what you think there.
Can everyone see my screen here?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah. So let's assume you're an engineering partner, you're logged in. So essentially, this is our dashboard where you can see what's going on, in the community, right?
Can you make the fonts
overall
a little bit bigger, maybe?
Okay, let me zoom in a little bit.
There you go.
Is it better?
Maybe one more.
How about now?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this is showing everyone what's going on this is essentially a personal dashboard. And one thing I want to show you is the community where this is
okay. Sorry. So wait. We got to do this step by step. So in this example, you are Kristen Tam, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're signed in as Kristen, and I just want to describe what I see, and then we can dive into some of the features here. So we've got an activity feed. It looks like we've got the community, and that's the page that we're on. We'll get into that in a second. And then there's some opportunities, and then there's
below are some admin features, but these are the three most important things.
Are the admin features visible to everyone or just commit?
No, just with certain people,
Okay.
Yeah.
So proceed.
Yeah. So like I said, here you can see what's going on in the community. We have all hands and we have happy hours, and we also have lots of community curated blog posts that that is.
Okay. Wait. Let's take this one by one. Go back to the top. David, if the screen share is small, I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think you might be able to click on the icon or the thumbnail in the sidebar to make it the full size. I think that's how that works. Okay, so here we have, this is Kristen's activity feed. We've got, so when it says add 3D printing, laser cutting to your interests, I see. So that's interesting. So where are those interactions coming from? So let me back up. Part of what we're looking at with Commit here, let me try to explain this, and then you can tell me if I'm wrong. Is that essentially, as a member of Commit, you have a profile that's a little bit like LinkedIn, and essentially, or GitHub. And based on your behavior, based on the things that you interact with, the things that you read, Commit is building up a profile of the stuff that you actually are interested in. That profile then is used to match you with startup opportunities that might be where you want to go and work or try something out for that 3-month program, or what would you call it? Sort of like a loan sort of experience. And then you decide if you want to go to that startup full time. Meanwhile, you have this connection to a community that are full of other startup engineers who are in a similar process or thinking about similar things. Okay, wait, so stay on activity.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so within, there are several community and upcoming events seem like they might have some overlap there, but let's go with it. And so it seems like, at least in this case, there's a bunch of virtual events that you can join as being part of the Commit community, and then scroll down a little bit more. Let me see what there was. Oh, and then there's blog posts. So where are those? Oh, and then, sorry, and there's the opportunities, as I mentioned. So it looks like activity is a little bit like the news feed. It's sort of an aggregation of several things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, by the way, I just want to clarify, like this is a very early stage. Our activity dashboard is not fully developed yet. It's very early stage. So this just gave you a rough idea of what we are envisioning. But this will go through rapid iteration. Really, it's like a news feed to present the most relevant information to Christine here to make sure she's aware of what's happening, events, new opportunities, a knowledge sharing information, and also continue to build out the personal profile.
Cool, great. And yeah, again, David, Robin, sorry that you're having some challenges with that. If you do try to either go full screen or if you might be away, but I'll bring some of this feedback back to SuperPeer. And then these posts, where are those coming from? So who's publishing them?
Yeah, this is from our marketing team. So these posts are created by our engineers themselves. For the most of them, some of them by our marketing team. But essentially, these are blog posts where our engineers really work out loud to share their experience, their learnings with the outside world.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out this screen share thing. I'm not quite sure why I can't pin it, but as the host, I don't have any superpowers or controls, so I apologize. But yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, okay. So you want to jump into community?
Yeah. So community. So by the way, just like a community is where what I mentioned early on. Like a lot of the peer-to-peer support takes place within the community. A lot of them right now is happening organically on Slack, like our internal Slack. But what we are trying to do is to build out a software product to really, streamline the entire process, to gather people based on interest group or gather people together based on their passion, and also just being able to get help when they need, right? So here are some example communities that we're experimenting with so far, like craft-centered groups. This is where people are gathered together based on their craft. This is an example is the data science, machine learning. A lot of people are interested in this. And then some are just hack and learn. They want to learn something together. Learning alone is tough. So why not learn as a small group, on a particular topic like DevOps, or Kubernetes, right? So these are, and then, sometimes people want to expand their network to meet people one-on-one. So this is another way to do that. But essentially, this is how community would work, once we build out the system.
Got it. Where are you in terms of the development and the maturity of this platform so far?
Yeah. So for activity and community is in pretty early stage. It's opportunity, which is, this is where we spend a lot of time to really, develop in the past half a year or so. Got it.
Okay. Yeah. So since, the screen share is a little funky, let me see, is it a switch to, okay. Paul, thank you for that feedback. We will figure this out with SuperPeer. Let's turn off the screen share for now and just go back to the conversation.
Okay.
And that's totally fine, because the next thing that we wanted to talk about anyways was getting up some actual engineering partners. That's what you call them?
Yeah, EPs, engineering partners. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think you're still screen sharing, but that's fine.
Okay, let me stop that.
There we go.
Okay.
So I think we want to have Fong actually come up and tell us a little bit more about his experience. And then we're actually going to hear from a bunch of folks from Commit. And so if anybody who's, again, watching now, if you guys want to ask questions about the Commit life or experience, we got some actual folks who've had the experience and can speak to it directly.
Hey, so just a quick intro about me. I've been in the tech space for 15 years. I've been in software for 10 years. I've worked in companies from big corp to small startups. I've worked in agencies. I've worked in SaaS startups. So, I can say with some confidence that I've kind of been around the block just a little bit. I've even tried to start my own company a couple times, but I've failed miserably. And, the thing that...
Did you fail fast or did you fail slowly?
I failed fast, so that was something I learned.
Good.
I guess that's okay, right? Yeah, but the one thing I did learn from doing all this is that, being able to throw your ideas out there, working with your community, building a community, and being able to get guidance or even be able to guide other engineers, like that was something that was really interesting to me. And when I met Bayer and he pitched to me what Commit was, he wants it to be, and what the mission was, that was like, this is everything that I wanted for my career. Like if I had this 10 years ago, I would be so much further ahead than where I would be now. Like maybe I would have a successful company that I started myself, right? And so just once he told me the mission, I was hooked. Like I wanted to come, I wanted to help in any capacity that I could. And now here I am, just trying to build out Helix, trying to build out the platform with the rest of the team here.
Okay, so like help me understand, because like you have I don't know if you have an interesting role relative to the rest of the folks on Commit, but I want to, I guess, understand a little bit of the separation between being someone who is employed by Commit to work on Commit versus someone who is an engineering partner who is part of the community, and then you go work on or contribute to external startups. Like, how do you kind of identify, I guess, in this role, and like what is your day-to-day, and how is that interaction actually set up?
Yeah, it's really hard. Actually, originally I was hired to be an engineering partner, just go through the entire process and meet all these.
Wait, so this is meta. You ended up being, or you started as an EP.
Yeah.
At Commit.
We eat our own dog food.
Yeah.
Commit is a startup partner of Commit itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like
self-dealing could be a problem, but we're not going to touch that one right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see the difference, but it's become more clear and clear every day as we build out the platform. I just thought that a lot of the problems I wanted to solve for myself, I could just solve for everybody else. And so, I go through day to day trying to build out the platform, but I always put myself in the shoes of the engineering partner, just to see, what are the problems that they've had, what are the problems that I've had in the past. Things like stability, things like outgrowing to figure out what the next move is, trying to keep updated with my skills. Like all that stuff is hard and all that stuff is difficult, especially if you're stuck in a company. Especially for me, like I had to take care of my family. I had to have a lot more responsibilities outside of just my career. And once Commit came and Bayer was telling me about the mission, like this all just became natural to me. And that's why I asked him, is there possible for me to take on a more active role in this whole mission? And he said, yeah, why don't we just build the platform? And I'm like, okay, sign me up.
Yeah, and Chris, I just want to add a quick thing here. Like I was hoping to show the opportunities tab, while I was doing the demo. But in that tab, Commit is just one of those startup partners also hiring engineers. So we are no different than any startup partners we work with. That's one. And then the second thing I want to mention is, because we are building the software platform, so we have this internal open source model where anyone in the community can actually contribute to the code base, that they can make the tool built for them better, right? So that's been really interesting dynamic we've seen, that people are building the tools for themselves through this internal open source.
So, well, one, you have an interesting benefit where you have engineers, right? So they can actually contribute and do that. I guess I've had some experience with the on-deck community, and I'm curious if you see or how you would differentiate between kind of what on-deck's doing and what you guys are doing. I just like on-deck has an internal directory. Y Combinator has their own internal tools, but it's not often the case where individuals who are part of the community get to contribute to those tools. And that seems really transformational and very interesting, just in terms of being able to work with different people and getting exposed to how they work and develop. And so that in and of itself seems like it could create a really interesting community glue. So yeah, how do you position yourself relative to those other communities that are out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for us, we are 100% laser focused on solving problems for startup engineers, right? I think that would be the fundamental difference there, right? But we do have this unique dynamic where our community members are software engineers, and they can actually build the tools to serve themselves, and we're providing this platform so they can actually do that, right? And this is the type of dynamic we are learning, and we want to really develop more over time to really see how we can create a model where everyone in the community can contribute back to the mothership, right? In a really fundamental way, right? Not just like talking and sharing and joining events, but actually contributing back to the source code.
I'll try to find this link. Packy McCormick recently had a podcast where he talked about, I think, something about community, or I don't know, I'll find it, but he was talking about this idea of liquid employment, where there are sort of like groups of people who come together, they want to work together, they have some, skin in the game, but they're oftentimes very diffuse. They kind of go out, they do some things, and they almost like going out on a deployment, and then, returning back after they've done, some work and they've learned some things, and they share, some stories and crack a beer and whatever. I guess, so I'll go into that. Renee has a question that I think perhaps either Alina or Chris could answer, which is, from an EP's perspective, what is the most valuable aspects of Commit that you've experienced so far? How basically is Commit doing in terms of its goal to support startup engineers and the careers of startup engineers?
I can handle that one if you like.
Sure.
I should
introduce yourself real quick. Just who are you?
I'm Chris. I'm largely a front-end developer. My background is in science, but I've been working with and building for the web since the mid-90s, I'd say. I've worked with as a full-time employee, a contractor, and a freelance, and environments ranging from digital agencies to startups to traditional software to SaaS. And over time, I'd say I found myself drawn to like smaller, scrappier outfits with like a good sense of like the right level of process to stay agile, but generate like clean, flexible code. And so that's basically kind of how I got to Commit. But I'd say when I first found out about Commit, the biggest concern I had was that it was 100% remote. And I've always worked in an office, even when I did contract work. And it's because I enjoyed like the separation of home life and work life, and the mental break from like that walking to and from work every day kind of gave me, and the social life that working in an office kind of has built in. And then of course, like COVID came along and everybody was working from home. And I found out that it wasn't really all that bad. So, and there was in fact some perks kind of involved in it. Like there's no commute. There's a lot more flexibility in like, how you structure your work, how you structure your days, and enjoying my home and my neighborhood a little bit more. So I started looking more deeply into what Commit offered. And I think one of the first things that I kind of like came across quite quickly is the fact that Commit vetted the startups so that I didn't have to. And as a tech person, like I can judge a startup's choice of tech stack and dev processes, but I don't really have the experience to judge the business side. And that's something that Commit can really do for others.
So this is really interesting. Like unpack this a little bit, right? So I guess on the one hand, there's optionality, right? There's kind of like where you might go in terms of a job, in terms of the opportunity, in terms of the upside, in terms of the team. Like there's so many different things that you would start up against. Help me understand what your impression of what Commit asks of startups and how it does the evaluation, and on what criteria. Like, and I suppose that it probably varies, considerably, where one startup might be more, I don't know, like they might focus on one set of, opportunities or problems, and another one might do a different thing. Do you have the ability to sort of see what that evaluation criteria looks like?
To some extent, yeah. Like I would imagine that, there's any number of startups out there, and they have different strengths or aimed at like different markets. You can, as a developer, you can say like, I'm really interested in like fintech or security or something like that, and they will say, okay, cool. Here are some startups that fit what you're looking for. Here's that particular industry. I think they're really sort of looking for like startups that really do have like a solid backing, like a solid idea, solid leadership. All of those things are basically going to mean that it's going to be around for a while and that they've got like a solid direction. So that as a developer, you're not jumping into something and you're like, I have no idea what I'm going to be here, in 3 months or not. Right. These guys are just going to go under or what's going to happen.
Got it. Alina, do you want to add anything to this one?
I don't know, it's kind of hard to about the app description and everything. yeah, I just think Commit just does a really great job of pairing everybody up based on not just interests, but values as well, which I think is really important.
Speak
for just
to
alignment.
maybe some of the values that you brought into your process, and how did you articulate them? And like, was it an active conversation with someone at Commit, or was it done through software?
Well, I think it was a little bit different for me. I also, like Fong, I think like many others, entered everything as an EP, just looking to match up with, just with a startup where I could do some meaningful work. But in the end, I just found Commit was where I found the most meaning. It really resonated with me, the mission and the culture and just the whole process of joining. It felt very human. It wasn't like the interview, for instance. It wasn't a typical kind of coding interview where it feels like you're being tested. It was more of just a conversation with another engineer, and they're a human being, and just that level of trust and respect I felt has just been a constant throughout my whole experience at Commit. And so, I just wanted to I guess dive deeper into that, and what started off as kind of a temporary little pairing with the platform team, while I might seek out other startups, just ended up becoming a full-time thing, because I personally asked to stay on. It was
Got it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And, okay, so far it seems like Commit's really great at hiring for Commit. Who's on here today that is not, who did not end up working for Commit? For like were we all?
I think today we have the whole platform team with us.
It's the whole platform.
Yeah, we have like the majority of our engineers actually join other startups. Well, we actually do have two people who might be in the audience. Like we invited two of our engineering partners here. But I don't know if they can actually speak here because they're not.
Got it.
It's Super Peer is kind of new to us, so trying to figure it out.
Same. It's still very much an evolving platform. In fact, they might actually want to consider talking to you guys. Well, I believe some of them maybe actually left some comments on the Product Hunt launch. Is that right? I think they did. Anyways, you guys can go check it out there. This is all meta, and it's great anyways. Okay, well, so let's
Chris, by the way, I just tried something. I tried to invite Tim and Martin. So they're both our EPs and working at other startups. I just invite them to speak. I don't know how that will work out, so we'll see.
It says Martin Jung is now a speaker, so it appears that Martin can speak.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Hi, I'm Martin. A brief introduction. I've been around 7 years. I've been working for like mid-size unicorn startup to big size, and now I'm experiencing a really small size startup through Commit.
And so walk us through your process. Like, how did you discover Commit? And then, like this onboarding process sounds pretty magical. And then you've been part of the Commit community, and now you've gone back out into startup land. So how has it been in terms of your integration with the third-party startup? And what is that like for you? And how are you staying involved with Commit?
So first of all, I think I joined the Commit like considerably like early stage, like a little bit more than a year ago, and I knew Bear, and that's how I heard about Commit. And I always wanted to, do some adventure, take some adventure, but I'm also really a safe person, so I was really afraid. But Commit actually lowered my barrier a lot. Like, I have this financial stability, and I can safely try different startups. So that's why I joined Commit. And actually, I'm working for a company. I joined a company that I firstly tried out the first. So I haven't really experienced much other companies, but like other side, that means like Commit really knew what I wanted, and they provide me a great match. So
what is the sort of topic or theme that you're working on now?
Oh, I'm working for a company called Placeholder, and we are
It's very meta.
we are providing like commercial space matching for other businesses.
Oh, it's a great name. Yeah.
Yeah. And I joined as a first engineer, full-time engineer of the company. And what I wanted was I really wanted to experience really small team and like be the first engineer of a company, and like exactly like there was it for Placeholder. And Placeholder founders are like they're really strong founder in many aspects. So yeah, I was happy to try out and things went well. So I
And
joined.
how long have you been with Placeholder now?
Like since last April.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's amazing. So this is, I mean, I think that like your example is a really great one in terms of just speaking to how one, doing this upfront, kind of values assessment, having that conversation, then kind of positions you when you go find the startup that's a good match for you. Ideally, you'll stick around like for a while, right? As opposed to like trying out a startup where it's like not a good culture fit, but it's really hard to know that from the outset.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And another benefit I got from Commit is, so I wanted to join like the small team as a like first and as a like founding team, but also I was afraid is one of the thing I was afraid of is like I only have so many experiences, and I know I don't think I'm a like like superhero developer. So I always wonder, do I have enough experience to join a company and like to help them building from scratch? And actually from Commit, I knew that I can get those helps from the experts that I don't know much in the domains. So
Can you, okay, like I think this is really interesting, right? So, because this is something Bear has talked about quite a bit, and it'd be great to make this more concrete. When you say, you got the support that you needed from Commit, is that specifically like on a day-to-day, like you're running into tactical problems and you're like, oh, who do I ask? And you go to Commit, or is it that you went through like a training process or something that was a little bit more, involved?
I think a little bit of both, because so I mainly did application development, and I knew about DevOps side like over the shoulder, but I didn't do much hands-on DevOps works. So when I joined Commit and joined Placeholder, whenever there's a daily DevOps challenges, I asked in Commit community, and later on, Commit had this internal study group about Kubernetes, so I was part of it, and there was a there's a study group.
Was it like a mastermind group, or how would you participate in that?
Sorry, I don't know about what's mastermind group, but like we took a Udemy course, and there was like two DevOps experts from Commit who did follow up and like help us to get through and share the questions and solutions.
Huh. That's awesome. I want to make sure we get to hear from some other folks too. So, Tim, do you want to tell us about your experience?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, I joined Commit about 6 months ago. I've done 2 pilots. I'm on my second pilot right now. The first pilot, it wasn't really the exact right fit, and so it was really great. When I got back, there were a number of startup partners lined up waiting to talk with me, and I had a new pilot ready to go literally within a week of finishing my first one. I'm super excited about where I'm working now. I'm at Scope Security. We do cybersecurity for hospitals, which is just, it's very important. It's super exciting. We're just getting started. We're bringing on our first customers right now. So it's an enormously exciting time to be there. I've got a lot of responsibility for kind of the whole front end. I've been taking on a lot of responsibility. So it's really exciting. Yeah, can't say enough good things about it.
That's awesome. And so I think given that you have the experience of going out and then finding that it wasn't a good fit, what was the process like, or the conversations that were involved? Like, I imagine in some ways there's like an expectation setting, right, with the startups where it's like, look, like, let's kind of, mutually date for a little bit and then like see if this is going well. And if not, then we can say, this is not a good fit. And then you can move off, as opposed to like anybody getting their feelings hurt. Like, or was like, I don't really know the case. I'm just curious to unpack that a little bit, because it just feels like de-risking that experience and removing some of that, I don't know, like the heat, the pain, the frustration, like it just sounds so much more, I don't know, stress relieving.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, it was a lot less stressful, because it's kind of part of the process, right? It's not assumed that I'm going to stay, right? It's not assumed that it's going to be a good fit, right? I haven't given up my old job to start here. It's not like I've made a commitment. They haven't made a commitment to me, right? So it was very much kind of just sort of part of the process, a natural part of the process, right? As opposed to something, catastrophic, right? If you give up a job and you start something new and you realize it's not a good fit, well, you've made a big commitment, right? And they've made a big commitment to you, right? And so, yeah, but without that kind of that pressure, or that commitment, it really did seem to be just sort of a normal part of the process, right? It was kind of an expected thing that it might not be a fit, and that's just perfectly normal. So yeah, it was very much not stressful.
That's awesome. Huh.
Yeah, and then just one quick point I want to add is we also have internal process to really ensure like a graceful exit on both sides, right? So it's not like chaotic and fire. Just like we do our best to make sure this is mutually a graceful exit on both sides.
Okay, I'm realizing that we're coming up on time. I want to give Julie rather a chance to speak a little bit more about the nomination process, because I'm realizing that you're really creating a two-sided marketplace. One where you've got the startup engineers, and the other you've got a certain class of startups that are looking for this type of engagement and are willing to go through this process. So Julie, can you speak to that?
Yep, for sure. So the nomination process, we created it such that our engineers on our platform, they can nominate someone that they think might be a good fit for Commit and to bring them on. So our nomination process is all done asynchronously, meaning that you won't get bombarded with a whole bunch of emails like scheduling coffee chats and interviews and whatnot. It's all done through the system. So what happens is that when an engineer nominates someone, the nominee gets sent an email with a simple application form to fill out some simple information about like their GitHub, their LinkedIn, and like why they're excited to join or what they're looking for exactly. And the nominee would go through a series of chats with members of our team to see if there's like the goals align with what they're looking for and what we can provide for them in terms of career growth. And if everything works well and they're excited to join, we can bring them onto the platform and they can, talk more with startups or just join on as learning like from the community and whatnot.
And what is the percentage of people who either are nominated or sign up for the waitlist and get approved?
That I'm not entirely sure. So Bear can.
Yeah, I can count that. I mean, like we literally just announced like to the public today. So we just started the waitlist process today. Prior to that, everybody who joined Commit is through nomination. Like people can't just join us. So it's not a public thing. So people have to be nominated by someone in order to join us.
Got it. And again, just a reminder for folks who do sign up at Commit.dev today or via Product Hunt, you will get priority access to get off that waitlist. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Okay, we only have a few minutes left. I want to respect people's time. Bear, one big question that I have for you, is really like, what does this look like if you succeed? Like, what does the startup sort of ecosystem and startup engineering career space look like in 5 or 10 years? If you've really, if Commit itself has worked?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, if Commit really succeeds in the future, I would say the shorter vision is, I really believe tech talent can work anywhere on any project they're passionate about, at any time, right? I think that's really important for, I'm talking about tech worker, but in the future, I really think any knowledge worker can enjoy that, right? So like our mission is to eliminate all the frictions and risks, and also just decoupling career opportunities and geolocation, right? So that's still kind of quite covered today. And I think, another thing I want to mention is, I really think Commit can become this, this record of work for engineers that they can take anywhere with them, right? So if you work at company A and then you leave and you join company B, a lot of your, growth, a lot of your skill set development and the work you've done is kind of lost. Like today, if you think about, how I find a new job is resume and LinkedIn profile, and some of people is GitHub. But honestly, most of the engineers contribute to IP protected code. They can't even show off their code, right? Unless they contribute to open source, which is not a big percentage. So we are really hoping to develop the technology, the platform, that we can really help engineers to take the record of work with them, right? They control the data. They can decide to show, show what data, for use cases like mentorship. I need to find a mentor, or I want to provide mentorship. Here's everything about me. Or I want to find a new job. Hey, company A, here's everything about me. Don't do those 5-10 rounds of interviews with me anymore. Just get to know me asynchronously, and let's hop on a call, and then call it a day, right? So I think that's the dream. That's the dream.
Huh. I love it. It's funny, as you were speaking, you triggered a memory of a blog post that I wrote in 2005. I'm going to share it in the chat here. I called it The Cult of the Vagabond Hacker. And this is back when I was getting my start helping out with the launch of Mozilla and working in the open source world. And this is like probably around the time where we hadn't done the first, no, actually we hadn't done the first bar camp yet. We hadn't even started the first co-working spaces. But I had this idea that if you were part of this open source collective, the work that you did would be visible to the world, and you could find opportunities, you could travel the world, you could go anywhere, and people would just sort of, receive you based on the good works that you had done. And that at least, 15 years ago, 16 years ago, was quite a revelation in terms of the way in which work had been done, where it was very kind of occluded or private, not shared, not public. And what we're starting to see now, not only with the shift towards building in public, but having these kind of artifacts of different moments in your career and the growth that you've done and the learnings, and people can attest to that. What I really like about the Commit model is that it is sort of, I don't know, it's like, personalizing search engines like for you and for your interests, but doing that for your career and for your life, right? It's like just be who you are, what you like to do, and have those opportunities come to you based on just what you naturally are drawn to. And so that to me is so much of what the internet should provide. And now it's just exciting to hear that you guys are actually building it.
Yeah, it's almost like a personal career assistant where you can find opportunities, you can get help, you can grow and learn and grow, right? So that's kind of all personalized and customized. And then I think another key trend is just remote working. Once everything is happening remote, like Commit is a remote first company. And most of the companies we work with are remote first or remote friendly as well, right? So digital. And
do you presume, just to dive in on that, do you believe that trend is just going to persist, or as the pandemic sort of wanes a little bit, do you see a shift backwards, just in terms of how startup engineers should be anticipating or thinking about developing their career?
Yeah, I'm 100%, 100% believe, remote is going to be the future, especially for technology workers, right? Yep. And I think the companies who don't adapt, their lunch is going to be eaten by the ones who does, right? So I just fundamentally believe in that. But then if you think about when work is remote, then all your digital work interaction, your source code, your meetings, your written communication, everything is digital. There's going to be a record of that, right? So how can we really leverage that to improve your career, your learnings, and everything?
Totally. Okay, we are now at time. I want to thank you guys so much for participating. I'm sorry I didn't get to bring everybody up. I put some more links in the chat for specifically the Product Hunt launch. Please go check it out. If you can support us, that'd be great. Also the values quiz. If you're a startup engineer thinking about your future career or what you want to do next, it's very low pressure. Just, you can fill it out, get some insights about yourself. And then you can talk to the Commit team. What's a great way for people to get in touch with you, Bear?
Yeah, like just hit me up on Twitter or LinkedIn, or just connect us through community@commit.dev. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible.
I think I have your Twitter handle somewhere here.
Yeah, it's I'll post it here.
Great, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you guys showing up for this. This was another instance of Product Hunt Live, where we go deeper into a launch on Product Hunt, so you can really understand. I mean, in this one in particular, I was like, God, they're like breaking so many barriers in terms of how to think about like recruiting and resumes and collaboration and community, that it really felt like it needed this type of space to discuss it and go a little bit deeper. So I want to thank everyone from the Commit side for showing up for this and participating, and for everyone here who's been watching this whole time. This recording will be shared both on my SuperPeer profile, and I believe we're going to post it to YouTube as well. So if you guys want to revisit it, you're more than welcome to. So again, I am Chris Messina. You guys can find me on Product Hunt or Twitter or anywhere else. Thanks again for showing up today. And cool, guys. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for hosting us. And thanks everyone who attended.
Thanks.
Bye.